freshwater habitat, and we are also going to discuss estuarine. For the purpose of today's lesson, we are going to focus on marine habitats. So, let us look at the objectives of today's lesson. At the end of this lesson, you are able to define marine habitat. You should be able to also describe the characteristics of marine habitats. You are able to name and explain the major zones of marine habitat, as well as infer the food chain of the organisms in marine habitats. Let us look at the contents of the lesson. The term marine habitat, the term marine is derived from the Latin word mare, which means sea or ocean. Therefore, marine habitats refer to aquatic habitat which contain salts. Marine habitats are also called saltwater habitats. So it therefore means that any water body that contains salts is regarded as marine water habitat. And examples of such water bodies are marine habitats of water bodies are lakes, oceans, sea, etc. Now let us look at the characteristics of marine habitats. The following are the characteristics of marine or saltwater habitats. A. Salinity. Salinity. Salinity is defined as the degree of saltness or concentration of salt solution in oceans. It therefore means the concentration of salt in the water. Any water that contains salt or have high degree of salt in it is called salinity. So salinity is one of the characteristics of marine habitat. So it therefore means that salinity is one of the attributes or one of the characteristics of a marine habitat. So we have salinity as one of them. We have B, temperature. Temperature simply means the effect or affect by geographical latitude, which ocean current, weather, the discharge of river, and by the presence of hydrothermal vents. Current, temperature, and is being decided by or being affected by geographical latitude, and also ocean currents, the discharge of river, and by the presence of hydrothermal vents. We have another characteristic, which is density. Density there is one of the characteristics of marine water habitats, which has the highest occupants of it all. The density of marine water is high, hence many organisms can float in it. So the density of marine habitat is very high compared to that of freshwater habitats. Then we have the size. Marine habitat represent the largest of all the habitats. The ocean occupies over 70% of it. On Earth, the total kilometer square of the Earth is 510 million kilometers square. Only the water body alone take up to 360 million kilometers square. So therefore means that the water body occupies the largest portion or the largest chunk of the earth. So that most of this portion goes to the marine habitat. So it's very, very big in size and also large in size. So we have the currents. Currents. The currents are always produced by wind at the surface of the ocean. So the current here simply means the movement of water or the speed of water of the marine habitat. So when you talk of the current here, it doesn't mean the current in electricity. It's talking about the speed, the movement, the speed movement of water in marine habitat. So the current of the marine habitat is faster and more it rush faster than the one of freshwater habitats. Then we talk about tides. Tide is also one of the characteristics of marine water habitats. Tide. Tide simply means the alternate rise and fall of the surface of the ocean, approximately twice a day. Tides means the rise and fall of the ocean. At times you go to the ocean, the water level will stop at your knee level. Next day or in the next day at times, the water level will stop at your waist level. So that rise and fall of the water body is regarded as tides. So it's one of the characteristics of marine water habitat. Then the next one is the waves. The next one is the waves. Waves are movement of surface waters of the oceans, and it can take any direction and are caused by winds. The movement of the water that flow that is controlled by wind is the wave. Some of you used to visit beach. At time you are in the beach, you see that the water will pull to where you are standing, and later on it will move back to the middle of the water. So that movement that come and goes is the waves, and always controlled by high strong wind. Always controlled by high strong wind. So that movement is the waves. So waves is one of the characteristics of marine water. Even we even have another characteristic, which is the oxygen concentration. The concentration of oxygen in the ocean is highest at the surface level, while it decreases with depth and in every deep part of the ocean. So because when we are going to talk about the zones of the marine habitat, we discover that most of the oxygen is concentrated at the shallow level compared to the deeper level of the ocean or of the marine habitat. Now let us move on. Let us talk about the major zones of marine habitat. The major zones of marine habitats. Marine habitat has different zones or level for different activities and nutrient availability for its organisms. I take it again. Marine habitat has different zones or level for different activities and nutrient availability for its organisms. Below are the zones of marine habitat. One, we have what we call supratidal or splash zone. Supratidal or splash zone. This is the exposed zone of the marine habitat. It has occasional moisture since it is the area where water splashes when the waves breaks at the seashore. So it's an exposed zone because it only covered with water when the water splashes, when the water comes in the twinkle of an eye, water will go back. So it makes the surface wet. So such level or such zone is called supratidal or splash zone. We have another one which is the intertidal or neritic zone. Intertidal or neritic zone. This zone is only exposed at low tide or covered by water at high tide. Remember what tide is: the rise and fall of water level. The rise and fall of water level. So when the water rises, you see some places that was not covered, some places that were not covered will be covered with water. When the water is low, those covered places will be exposed to to the atmosphere. So such zone is called neritic zone, and it has photosynthetic activity because of abundant sunlight. This particular zone has high photosynthetic activities because it's being exposed to sunlight. So that is what we call neritic zone or intertidal zone. We have another zone which is the littoral or subtidal zone. Littoral or subtidal zone. This zone is about 200 meters deep. It is constantly under water. It is 200 meters deep and it's constantly under water. It has abundant sunlight and therefore abundant nutrients. This one is not regulated or is not controlled by tide. It's constantly underwater. It's only 200 meters deep. It has abundant sunlight and also abundant nutrients. Let us look at the next one, which is the benthic. Benthic zone. Benthic zone. This zone is also underwater and is about 500 meters deep. It has low light penetration and low nutrients. The zone is also underwater and it is 500 meters deep. It has low light penetration and low nutrients because the depth has deepened. The depth have deepened so that it's because that there will be no more high penetration of sunlight. That is why the nutrient is low and the penetration of sunlight is low because it has gone deeper than the littoral zone. Now let us look at the next zone, which is the pelagic or abyssal zone. Pelagic, we like to call it like that, or abyssal zone. This zone is about 7,000 meters deep. It has low temperature, low light penetration, high pressure, and low photosynthetic activities. You can see how the zone is gradually vanishing with the with the temperature. But unlike this one, it is 7,000 meters deep. It has low penetration of sunlight and very low temperature and high pressure and low photosynthetic activities. There is no photosynthetic activities at all because there is no sunlight in there because it's deeper than the benthic zone. Then we have the last one, which is the hadal or aphotic zone. The hadal or aphotic zone. This is the deepest zone of the marine habitat. It is over 7,000 meters deep. Over 7,000 meters deep. It formed the rock or the floor of the ocean. This particular, because if you go into an ocean, the deepest part of that ocean is rocky. You see that you discover that there is a rock beneath or at the bottom. So such particular zone is called hadal or aphotic zone. Those are the zones or those are the major zones of marine habitat. Now let us look at the food chain. The food chain in marine habitat. Remember what food chain is. Food chain simply means the feeding relationship between the producer and the consumer, the one that produces and the one that have the final consumption and exchange of energy. So a typical food chain in marine habitat could be up to 3 or 4 level. A typical food chain in marine habitat could be up to 3 or 4 level. Example, we have what we call diatoms, and we have zooplanktons, we have tilapia, and we have shark. Diatom simply means the microscopic materials. Microscopic material is being fed by living organisms. So it's very, very tiny. You might not even see with the naked eye. Very, very tiny. It's being fed by zooplanktons. Zooplanktons, the word zooplankton is derived from the Greek, which is zoon, meaning animal, and planktons, meaning wanderer, or you can call it drifter. So plankton pertain to small organisms that drift or float or weakly swimming in aquatic habitat. So you join the word zooplankton, they are small animals. So they are small animals. So they feed